Thanks for dropping in. In this video, I discover that all RAM is not equal, that repeatedly pressing a key on a keyboard when it's not plugged in doesn't make it work, and that a 10-year-old laptop weighs a ton. In my last video, I looked at a bundle that I'd won on eBay, which consisted of a load of RAM, SSDs and other bits and pieces. Please check that out if you've not already. It also included 5 laptops. 3 of these are Dell's, an E6510, an E7440 and a D820. There was also a Lenovo and a Packard Bell, but I'm going to concentrate on the Dells today, as all 3 use the same standard 19.5 volt, 4.62 amp, 90 watt power brick, which I have on hand. So starting off with the Dell E6510, this is probably a first gen core machine, and an initial press of the power button when not plugged in shows no response. Turning it over and a battery is present, but its charge level and condition are unknown. I'll take that out just to make sure that nothing gets powered on while I'm fiddling around. The back plate is also there, and removing this gives me easy access to the inners. Immediately I can see there's no RAM present, but I don't think I'm lacking that due to the vast quantity I received in this very bundle. There is also a loose cable, with no obvious place where it should go. I'll have to have a look later to see if I can figure out what that's for. It looks like it may just be an antenna. I do however notice there is a 2.5 inch hard drive bay that is occupied. Sliding this out shows another Intel DC S3700 400GB drive, identical to the other 2 from this bundle that I checked out in the last video. I'll check that out using the same approach, and depending on its condition it could be worth around £30 on eBay. So grabbing a 2GB DDR3 SO DIMM and popping that in, sticking the battery and backpack on, plugging it in, and we have power. As we took out the only boot drive, it comes up with a various boot option error screen. And interestingly, there's an option to run a system test. So sounding like a good idea, this is what I did, and it all came back good. I guess it wasn't checking that loose unknown wire I found inside. While running the test, I noticed a spin-up noise coming from the optical drive. Hoping for a decent freebie disk, I was a little disappointed by the CDR that was in there, but I'll safely destroy that. And looking at the specification page, we have a Core i5 M560 running at 2.67 GHz, as well as a discrete NVIDIA NVS 3100M graphics card, and basically a working laptop. I noticed that the lid doesn't clip shut properly, but I'll have a look at that later. The second laptop is a Dell Latitude E7440. Like the first one, a press of the power button when not plugged in leads to nothing. I figured it would be best to have a look inside before plugging it in to make sure nothing was untoward. Flipping it over, we again have a battery and backplate present, although most of the retaining screws to the backplate are missing, so this has definitely been opened before. I took the battery out and removed the one remaining retention screw, and we are then given easy access to the laptop's interior. A close look at the RAM shows a 4GB stick, nice, as well as a 256GB micro SATA SSD, which I left in for now. Otherwise, everything looks good. Flipping it over and plugging it in gives us a power light, which is a good start, and upon powering it on we get a splash screen image. However, we've got a vertical line down the middle of the screen, so probably a damaged display. We're also stuck in a boot cycle. Going back underneath, I removed the RAM in case that was bad, and the SSD to get everything back to basic minimum. I grabbed another stick of DDR3 RAM and popped that in. And upon powering up this time, we just get a flashing keyboard lock light, so it definitely isn't happy. Turning it back over, I switched the RAM to the other RAM slot, but spoiler alert, I got exactly the same flashing error, so I edited that bit out. So back over again, looking at the original RAM, I noticed that it had LV written on it, which I assume stands for low voltage. Now with desktop RAM, you can get standard voltage RAM, which for DDR3 runs at 1.5 volts, and also low voltage RAM that runs at 1.35 volts. For info, low voltage RAM also supports 1.5 volts, so it is in effect backwards compatible. But standard RAM does not work at 1.35 volts. The RAM I've been trying to use looks like it's standard RAM. I was, incorrectly, under the impression that all DDR3 laptop SODIMMs would have been low power, given that laptops all need to be as efficient as possible. But this doesn't look like it's the case. I had a rummage through the DDR3 SODIMMs that I have and found a 4GB stick that was the standard nomenclature of sticking L after the PC3 to designate the low power. And upon plopping this in, we had a successful boot. Incidentally, I tried again with the original RAM off camera and it worked fine the second time, so that was probably just a reseating issue. When we finally got into BIOS, we can see that we've got an i5-4300U CPU, and I believe it was from these 4th gen Haswell mobile CPUs onwards on DDR3 that they had to use low voltage RAM, which would have been the basis of our issues. Also, a check of the battery showed it was not being detected, so basically dead. The third and final laptop I'm taking a look at today is this Dell D820, which is the oldest of the three, originating from around 2006. The usual initial push of the power button results in the usual no result. Going to flip it over, I also noticed that the right hinge is a bit loose and rattly, so that will need looking at some point. On the back I can see the cover plate for the RAM is missing, but we do have a battery which I removed for safety. This laptop uses DDR2 SODIMMs, and I was about to pop one in when I noticed the RAM slot was labelled as B. This would suggest that there is another possibly populated RAM slot inside the laptop, or possibly the A slot of the RAM is directly soldered to the motherboard, so it may work just as it is. Flipping it back over and giving it some juice did indeed give us a splash screen. But then an issue was, none of the buttons on the keyboard were working, including the power switch. I tried repeatedly pressing buttons on the hope that brute force would get it to work, but it didn't. It took me a while to work out that this older laptop was accessed from the top by removing the keyboard rather than underneath like the others. Once done, I was quickly inside. Where the A DIMM slot was indeed populated with RAM, and in addition to the keyboard being unplugged, a couple of other cables were also removed, so someone had definitely been in here. One was probably for the trackpad, and I'm not sure what the other one was for, but I connected them all back up and replaced the now connected keyboard back into place and powered up. This time around we had a working keyboard, and once in BIOS it does become apparent that the down arrow on the keyboard isn't working. But that's nothing that an external USB keyboard wouldn't be able to sort out. A check on the battery shows, much like the previous laptop, it is not detected, so a dead battery. But after piecing it back together, we have the basis of a working laptop. So another success, basically 3 for 3. 3 laptops which, after a bit of TLC, which includes but is not limited to an SSD or hard drive installation, OS installation, and then checking the hardware is all working fine once an OS is present and working. If working fine, I may sell one of the laptops on eBay to recoup some money. I may also keep one myself as a backup and probably give one away on FreeCycle. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a thumbs down if not. Please consider subscribing to be told when my next video drops. And do you use an old laptop for anything? Can you think of anything they could be used for rather than ending up in recycling or landfill? Please leave a comment below, and I'll see you soon.